Hello! So this is the brand new DJI Mini 3 Pro, and we're super excited that DJI managed to ship both the drone and the Fly More kit together before our trip to Switzerland to do the hot route in July. So we're really excited about that. Their original estimate was end of May for the drone and mid-July for the Fly More batteries, so they definitely under-promised and over-delivered, which is always ideal. This is also one of the first ones shipped to a regular consumer in America, which is really cool. So we're late to the drone game and bought a DJI Mini 2 in the summer last year. It served us well. We filmed a lot of bike edits. We even filmed our proposal, but it was kind of like buying an older model iPhone right as the next model came on the market. So it usually doesn't matter much, but this was a big upgrade from the Mini 2. When the details were released, it made sense to sell the Mini 2 and go with this one, since the changes feel like going from an iPhone 7 to an iPhone 13. The iPhone 7 was a great device for its time, but it's amazing how much they've evolved. When you look at the new one, the differences are pretty vast. There's a lot of new features in this drone, and I just want to go over a few of the biggest changes in the setup that convinced us to switch from the Mini 2 to the Mini 3 Pro. The first is the integrated screen in the remote. It's much more convenient compared to pulling out your phone and connecting it with the cable like the Mini 2 every time you want to set up a shot. We had it down to a quick routine, but this definitely makes it faster. Plus, it's nice to not have to worry about putting the remote and phone in a backpack while they're still connected. And sometimes it would get frustrating setting it up just to get a quick shot. So anything that makes the setup faster, I think, is super helpful. The next big selling point is the ability for the Mini 3 Pro to track moving objects with the APAS system that other DJI drones with obstacle sensors use. This will make it a lot easier to film our biking trips. Normally we take turns like filming each other or even trying to fly while riding along, but this is a big improvement. It's a game changer for us because finally the drone operator can actually be in the shot, which is exciting. So setting up Active Track is a bit of a learning curve and definitely is slower than getting a good shot manually. So it's not something that we'd use all the time. It's ideal for when nobody else can film you, but it's definitely not flawless. It hasn't run into anything, but it does take a while to set up the shot, select the subject, press record, stash the remote, then go, and then worry that maybe it hit something from the side when you weren't looking. The Mini 3 still does not have side-facing sensors, so it will run into things sideways like the Mini 2 did when they were filming our proposal. So you have to be careful. Side obstacle sensors would be like the last thing the Mini 3 needs to compete with its other models like the Mavic 2 Pro, the Mavic 3, and even the Skydio action drones. So this remote should last about 4 hours, between 5 to 8 batteries, depending on which ones you use. If your remote dies while flying, your drone should automatically return home. We flew all 3 batteries down to about 20% and came back with 65% battery left on the remote. While looking at the remote, the one thing I wish they did was make the joysticks a little bit more robust. They're super tiny and fragile, and even I have small hands, and I think so. So I bet it'd be really easy for them to snap off if the remote ever got dropped or thrown into a bag that was too rough. So the addition of the slow motion video is also really cool. It would have been nice if it was in 4K instead of 1080p to match the rest of your video, but it's not a huge deal. The slow-mo is 120 frames per second, which makes action nice and smooth. Also the smooth zoom wheel right here on the top right of the remote that goes between 1x and 2x digital zoom is also a nice touch that was kind of missing from the Mini 2. So obviously a big factor in upgrading to the Mini 3 is the improved camera with a larger sensor and an f1.7 aperture lens. The vertical shooting will also come in handy. I can think of a lot of times where it would have been nice to shoot vertically. A lot of possibilities open up for like waterfalls and mountains or whatever else we come across during our bike rides. I'm really looking forward to using the hyperlapse mode to make the time-lapse shots. That might be cool to set it up, let it go like while we're at a lunch break, high up in the mountains or something during our trip. Okay, so even though the vertical camera is more social media friendly, getting your photos from your drone to the phone is a little bit different process. You can either put your memory card into a computer or do a quick transfer from the DJI Fly app on your phone directly from the drone's Wi-Fi. I tried this, I was pretty impressed with the speed. It transferred at 3 GB movie in like under a minute. When the drone was introduced, it was advertised as only supporting an 8-bit Cinelike, and DJI recently upgraded it to a 10-bit Cinelike, which is great for serious users. And because of all these extra camera settings and obstacle settings, the drone definitely has a bit of a learning curve. You have to make sure that the settings are correct before you start shooting. For example, when you're using the tracking, you have to press start, but you also have to remember to hit record. A few times I set the tracking, I did the shot, and then I realized at the end that I had not hit record. So these high capacity plus batteries are helpful because you don't need to carry as many with you. 2 plus batteries should fly about the same time as 3 regular batteries. The only thing is they're expensive at $95 each instead of $65. When we read that the Mini 3 would be larger, I'm actually surprised at like just how much bigger it is in height and wingspan compared to the Mini 2. It's not a deal breaker, but it's kind of bulky and it's just not as streamlined as before. But again, not a deal breaker. The price point for the 3 is basically double the Mini 2. It puts it on par with the DJI Air 2S. We briefly considered it for the larger 1-inch sensor, but the size and the weight, it's too much of a trade-off. And while it's kind of nitpicky, I feel like the Flymore kit should have included the strap for the propellers like the Mini 2. So one thing to be careful of though is when installing the memory card, it goes in upside down. If you force it to the right side up, something will probably break. So you actually like need to use your fingernail to get it in there enough. So you just have to be really careful with that. So people in Europe and Asia have been receiving their Mini 3s for a few weeks now, and there's been some complaints about the signal range. With it only going a few hundred meters before losing reception. The range is supposed to be 12 miles or so. They think the USA drones with FCC signal will do better than Europe standards. So we're gonna show you how it did when we tested this range. So we flew it out to 4,000 feet and it dropped from 5 bars to 4 bars. So it really didn't lose much signal at all. We'll see how it does in the mountains later. Don't wanna push our luck on the first day of having this drone, but it's reassuring to know that the range seems more than adequate and seems to only be an issue depending on what country you live in. So we did some testing of the obstacle sensors and they definitely work. As long as the drone sees something around it, it will automatically brake or go around depending on what you choose. In this clip, it did a great job ducking under a bridge and still avoiding other people while maintaining a good following distance. So overall, this drone is a big improvement in both hardware and software that I think will be a long time before they can release another 250-gram drone that really offers this much improvement that would warrant another upgrade. So since I plan to keep it for a while, I'm gonna buy the DJI refresh so that we have insurance for it just in case. We put a lot of hours on the Mini 2 and we never had any accidents, but you never know, like a bird or something's gonna come along and knock it out of the sky or something crazy. So for the time being, I'm really excited to start bringing it along. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you can subscribe to see what kind of bike trips the drone goes on. Bye!